Welcome to From the Valley podcast, Brisbane Business Life. This is episode 8 in the series. My name is Tim Wilshire and I'll be your host today. Before we get started and introduce our special guest for the day, I just wanted to sort of recap what's sort of been happening, I guess, in the last week, because quite a lot's been happening in my life. It has been pretty crazy stuff, to be honest with you. Started off on Monday, the C Deck with the Big Sound opening. Very well attended event in conjunction with the Valley Chamber of Commerce and Big Sound. So on the boat for 3 hours and then sort of got dragged out to party for about an hour or two afterwards, which is something which is quite interesting, mainly with the people from Wealth were sort of having a really good party time and that sort of thing. So it kicked on for a bit. The only downside, the heaps of booze on the C Deck, but the food quality there's a few complaints about the food quality, unfortunately. But so as soon as we got off the boat, we raided the charming squire and ordered some pizzas, and then so that was the C Deck. That was Monday night. Tuesday, Big Sound actually started. Went out at 8 o'clock and caught up with some local acts there. Saw Pacers, very good act, and Sam Sarah on the Tuesday night. So that was in the valley itself. Wednesday was a big day, very big day. I needed to have a nap at just before dinner. But ZeroCon on Wednesday. Now ZeroCon was hosted in Brisbane at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre, and these guys at Zero, they do not take any backward steps when they're setting these things up. You had a basketball court, you had ping pong tennis, and you had sort of a fake pool where you're throwing, you had all these plastic bubbles and balls. So some great speakers. There was a lady who survived the London bombings in 2005, has these metal legs that she now walks on because she had the legs sort of blown off. So that was crazy. And then another Big Sound on Wednesday night. Went out and caught up a few more acts, like Adrian Eagle. Actually ran into Pacers as well. Thursday night, another big one. Big day. There was ZeroCon Day 2. There was the guy who wrote the book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, Mark Manson. He was a very good presenter, and you got to try to teach you to sort of look at things differently. It was quite interesting. Actually, you do have the book already, so it was quite good to put that together. So ZeroCon was great. Then the Cloudland party for a bit. Then I caught up with some friends, and we went to the third day of Big Sound. Did have a nap in between there. So it was a crazy week coming in today. So if my voice starts to give a bit later in the broadcast, you'll understand why. But enough of that. A very special guest today is a great friend of mine. He's been a friend for probably 7 or 8 years or so. A very good networker. His name's Marcel Vogt from Country Consulting. Welcome along, Marcel.
Welcome, Tim, and hello to the listeners.
Yes, so decided to get you in. I like that you've got a sort of background from Switzerland. So coming across, from Switzerland to another country, we're going to hear a bit about those stories, which I'm quite looking forward to. Tell us a bit about what Country Consulting actually does, Marcel.
Look, Tim, I formed Country Consulting now nearly 17 years ago out of a business which I had in Switzerland, as you just mentioned. Country Consulting is an IT solution provider. So we're trying to differentiate ourselves from a standard IT business, that we try to provide more services. We help customer or people who are looking for solutions to find the right solution and implement that solution into the business. But then we're not walking away. We keep looking after that businesses, making sure what they have works best for them and maintaining them. And often really over the years we become a good friendship. So we don't really like the word client.
Yep.
Because we have a lot of personal interaction and making sure if their business goes good and the work we do goes good, then we have work to do in the future as well.
Yeah, so Marcel is certainly instrumental in a networking group that's called BOTS, which we meet once every fortnight at the Rock Lily restaurant in Virginia. You founded that group, is that correct?
Yeah, I was not the only one. We were about 4 business people who get together. We were looking what we could do, and we decided to set up a business group, which is not like a lot of other business group governed by somebody. We wanted to be governed by ourselves, so we had our own ideas, and we can change as well how the structure is, and that's now been going for nearly 8 years as well, Tim. Yeah, it's been a long time.
I remember I first went along to a meeting about 5 years ago, I think, when you invited me along, and the group needed an accountant. Fridays were a good day for networking for me, networking for breakfast, and one of the reasons why I joined. And the group sort of evolved a bit over the years. It sort of had about a dozen members, and then now it's sort of approaching 20 again, which is really good. Maybe even more than that. So
more than that, yes.
It's getting a very good traction at the moment. So that's every fortnight out of Virginia, so a bit away from the valley, but for our listeners. But it's a very good group, and yeah, definitely. So I guess the connection Marcel with the valley now is Marcel Country Consulting is a new member of the Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely, yes. I experienced the liveliness of the Valley Chamber and how the people do networking with each other, and I find that very charming and interesting, and very open and flexible dynamic. So that's why I decided to become a member of it.
And even better for you, your business is actually in the region. Newstead is in the catchment, so
absolutely, it's my area there, or where the business is. Although the business supports anywhere in Australia and basically anywhere in the world with technology these days. This is very, very simple.
Yes, I know. I use Marcel. I've purchased laptops from Marcel's advice. Marcel, we've had a look at. We've used his IT services in the past as well, so certainly highly recommended as far as that's concerned. So Marcel, I guess with these podcasts, what we sort of like to dwell into is a bit of what makes the person tick, I guess, to a degree. So starting back where you were born, whereabouts in Switzerland were you born? How was it growing up, and what sort of dynamic did you have with your father, and how did you sort of get into business?
Yeah, Tim. Yeah, looking back, yes, I've been born in the Swiss-German part. So the listener might know that Switzerland has actually 3 language parts. One is the Swiss-German part. I say Swiss-German, not German, it's different. Then the French part and the Italian part. There's also a 4th language called Romansh. So we have actually 4 official national languages. So I was born between Zurich and Lucerne in a countryside, not too country, but countryside, and you can hear it from my accent. I probably can never lose my Swiss-German accent in my English, and I apologize. I hope you understand me. Yeah, look, growing up, actually, I have to say, it was a good time, in the late 60s, 70s. There was not too much hardship for work. Like most people had employment. There was a little bit of phase there, as everybody knows, in Europe, where there was a little bit less employment. But my time as a child was very easy. I had a good time as a child, a good relationship with my family, parents, and friends. Interestingly, then I look back a little bit as well when we talk work. At the time being, my dad was working in a neighboring village, and that was about 5 kilometers away. And interestingly, when I looked at my friends where the parents work, they used to work within an area maybe of 2-3 kilometers. So people in those days in Switzerland, they didn't really travel that much. There were some occasions who had to travel to Zurich, but a lot of people worked in the close proximity for where they lived. So that's an interesting change to 2018, how we travel sometimes far distances. And I think it's a global trend. It's not only here in Australia, it's in Europe as well, that you spend more time commuting, and it's simpler as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you think obviously with populations always growing, it's sort of getting on the, bending more here in Brisbane. People do a lot of travel here, and there's still a lot of travel by car as well, because in some areas the bus systems and train systems aren't that great. But do you find that I'm seeing a bit of a trend with some more people working from home though as well?
Absolutely. Look at the flexibility now with introducing the technology, and we are heavy involved in this area in supporting. is absolutely a big, nice trend. There are some downsides to that, and we maybe speak to that a little bit later. But absolutely, it can save as well a lot of time. It can be more flexible, especially when you have family. But it also has the risk of disconnecting.
Oh, for sure. So going back to Switzerland, so I guess what sort of got you into, how did you find running a business in Switzerland? Was that an easy process for you compared to Australia, or was it always a difficult process running a business no matter where you are? What sort of red tape did you have in that country as opposed to the red tape you have here in Australia?
That's not so easy to say, because I started actually my first business probably when I was 12. So that was not a registered business. That was more like a hobby beside of school. Then later on, actually, I registered my first business when I was about 15.
What type of business?
That was it was called Music Corner Vogt. Okay. So I was dealing with music instruments.
Okay.
I was a muso at the time being. I played the guitar, the bass, the piano, and I was thinking, instead of me going to a music shop to buy it, why don't I buy it directly? And I bought it directly from the wholesaler and started that one off. And in fact, as a 15-year-old, it was simple. I did everything myself. I filled out the application forms, put the forms in. It was just dealing with local authorities, the government, so simple. It was just all straightforward, I had to say. So I never had any issues. I never had any red tapes or anything like that. And the government at the time being was very open, to help you. It's just, as long as you fill out the forms, as you follow that process, it's very simple. So.
And did that process change much sort of as you were evolving as an adolescent into an adult in Switzerland? Like, did the regulation sort of not change a lot, up until the time you left?
Absolutely. Look, it did, like anywhere, the red tape came in as well, a little more and more and more, specifically when you have employees and the number of employees, you have to follow this, and yes, you have to do bookwork. But one thing what I always had when I was over there is people are approachable. So it's not like that somebody lets you down, or they give you an idea and they help you. They always try to assist. It is interesting that the class, the middle class is very strong in Switzerland. So even if you speak to a bureaucrat or somebody in the government, they're on the same level as you. So they don't really want to put you down. They help you, they assist you. It's not that most of them don't have to show their ego, that they are more an authority than anybody else. And this is still today, in most cases. I can't generalize it.
That's good. So going back, so what were the most, things that your biggest achievements that you sort of achieved whilst you're living in Switzerland before you moved across to Australia? What were the things that you were proud of the most that you'd accomplished, and how did that sort of lead into what happened when you got to Australia?
That's a tricky question, because there are quite a few things. But one thing which I was really proud of is I had the opportunity to work for one of the largest reinsurance company in the world, which was in Zurich based. And there I was involved. First, I was involved in corporate identity and corporate design. And to be honest, at the time being, I didn't have much knowledge about this kind of work, but we were responsible in the team to deploy their corporate identity and design worldwide. And we're talking here a few thousand employees, 16,000 employees all over the world, in nearly every country in the world. And that was a challenge. And for me, as a younger person, that was very interesting to start interacting. And we had then local IT people which flew to Brazil, to Canada, to where, and we had to coordinate and support them. So that was a challenge, and it was a very interesting work there to do. So that's probably one of the highest achievements. And of course, rolling out in software applications there as well, all over the world, because it's a scale where you seldom get involved. It's an opportunity, a lifetime opportunity you could do. Beside of that one, I used to work a lot with a large company called IBM together, and we had a lot of insight there as well. And at one stage, I probably became a fossil. Because
what do you mean by that?
I was one of the only one who could support a computer system was called at the time being IBM Series 1, because most people have left and there were not many knowledgeable people around anymore. And it became to a stage that IBM called me for support, to support that equipment. But it was a very interesting time.
Yeah, so what do you think were the main key factors in deciding to leave Switzerland to pursue a lifestyle in Australia? And just to give the listeners a bit of insight, when that actually happened. So what were the driving factors behind that big decision in your life?
Look, I started traveling to Australia in around 1989 for the first time. I came here as a visitor. It was actually pure accident that I came to Australia. A family friend of ours, he moved to Australia, to Budrum, and intended to visit him. And Tim, look, the weather here is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, from the place where I'm in Switzerland, or where I used to live in Switzerland, it can be that you have 3 weeks fog, and that can be a little bit a downturn. And in winter, the weather can get onto your nerves. Saying so, if you live in the mountains, it can be brilliant. But yes, that was definitely a factor.
So weather was a factor. I mean, most people are either they like the hot weather, or they don't like the hot weather, or they don't like the cold. Probably more people don't like the cold than like the cold. So it's an interesting analogy, and that certainly is always a factor when you move from a cold climate to a warm climate, or vice versa. Usually that way around, the way that you've done it, I guess. So that was a big factor. What other factors? Did you like the Australian way of life, the opportunities that were here, did the country seem more you than Switzerland even?
Look, absolutely. When I came the very first time I was in the rat race in Switzerland. I was working, getting up at 5 o'clock, came home at 8 o'clock or later, 9 o'clock every day. And I was starting to burn out. That's the thing what you had. I came to Australia and I met the people here, and it was like a fresh wind to me, especially the people from the countryside. They were really open, they were really friendly, and I got embraced. People took me up. And I made so many friends in the first time I've never experienced before, and so easy. I traveled up the coast to Cairns and down to Melbourne, and I stayed with families which I've never met before. Just one passed me on to the next one. And that was really, I loved it. It was something which I didn't have in Switzerland. Swiss people are more reserved. It's harder to crack their heart. Once you're in, you're in. But to crack that heart, it's not so simple. Here, at the time being, it was way simpler, and they were really open, and that really I enjoyed that. That was the difference from culture.
So what about Brisbane was the big attraction to this lovely river city for you? I mean, obviously Australia's big. You've got 25 million people. You could live anywhere in Australia, really. What was it about Brisbane? Obviously, the hot weather was one thing. Was there anything? What else was there?
Look, the weather was a major part. Of course, when I decided to come to Australia, it had some other reasons, but the weather was a factor. I was in Cairns, I was in Sydney, I saw Melbourne, and I didn't like it. I just liked first the weather, but also the people here and how Brisbane was developing. Brisbane has come a long, long way. I remember the first time when I came to Australia.
So that was just after the expo back in.
Yes, exactly right. It was hard to find a good coffee place here.
Yeah,
there was no.
A bit easier now.
And now, to be honest, Tim, I think we have the best coffee in the world. We have the best roasteries, Di Bella and the other ones. What we have a local roasteries.
Elixir, Campos, Toby's Estates.
Exactly right. And how brilliant are they? the transformation, and I wanted to be a part of that transformation in Australia, in Brisbane, to be part of the community and helping with that. And that was really I saw the transformation, the change now over the years. And look what we have achieved and where we're going. This is only the beginning, what I see.
Yeah, so you've always been a very good networker from the day I met you. And obviously Rotary's, obviously something you got into when you got to Australia. Were you part of anything similar to that over in Switzerland at all?
Look, not Rotary, but in Switzerland there's an organisation, or it's here as well. They're called the JCs, Young Chamber of Commerce.
Oh yeah.
And I was a member of that. And I tell you here a little bit of funny story, which
Go for it.
I got a little bit embarrassed, to be honest. When I was in the Young Chamber of Commerce and I came to Australia, I made connection with the Young Chamber of Commerce here in Brisbane, and they invited me to a breakfast event with Jim Sorley. And that
Jim was the mayor at the time? Or?
Yeah, exactly right. Okay. Yes, he was the mayor, and I can't remember if it was in the Hilton or Sofitel or one of these locations, somewhere in the city. Look, my English was very rusty or very vague at the time being, and I was very nervous because the Young Chamber of Commerce asked me to be a speaker at that event. And I had no idea what to speak about, and I hadn't had a suit, nothing, because when you're traveling, you have nothing really here.
Not
so
ready.
I took it on board, and then I was thinking, look, if you're up there, you should give Jim a present, from Switzerland. And I wasn't prepared. I didn't have really anything except, now, my mother in Switzerland used to do some very nice little liquor. We call it schnapps.
Oh yes.
Okay. And they're quite strong and very nice, and we had them from our local trees.
I mean, the German clubs and stuff like that, and Oktoberfest. I love the schnapps, don't they?
Exactly. So what we have in Switzerland, actually, you can pick the fruits, and then in the village there's a moving guy comes around, which then makes the schnapps for you. You get a permit from the government. You say you want to make 1 liter or 2 liters, and you pay a tax. Then you take your fruits and that document to that guy, and then he makes you that amount of alcohol to the strength
So
you have.
long story short, did Jim Sorley get some of your snaps, or?
Exactly, and he told me he doesn't drink alcohol in front of these 200 people. So that was quite embarrassing. Yes.
Well, it's it's been hospital still. You mean, alcohol is one of those gifts that you can, it's fairly social to give it. Whether you drink it or not, it's just say, well, you might want to drink it. You can always give it to some. Well, you shouldn't give it to somebody else, but often that happens.
Yeah, so that was quite an interesting story what happened there at the time. So yes, the JCs, that's where I get involved a little bit in the networking, and as a matter of fact, I went back to Switzerland only about 6 weeks ago, and I called up with a member from the JCs where I was 30 years ago, and which still connected, which is fabulous. So when I came then to Australia, I had the opportunity to be invited to Rotary.
Yeah, so tell us about the first invitation you got to, obviously the club that you're still part of, Rotary Club of Hamilton? Or?
That's correct, yeah, the Rotary Club of Hamilton. Now, when I came to Australia, and listeners, you need to understand, I've never applied really for a job in my entire life, because I had either my own business or got into a business or something like that. So coming to Australia as a tourist and then live in another country is a different story. And I had no idea how to apply for a job in Australia. I had never done a resume or anything like that. So I went to the newspaper and looked who can help me, and I found a nice person in Pinkenba who helped me with that. And he was
David O'Kines, or?
David O'Kines, yes. Wow. And he was a member of the Hamilton Rotary Club.
Yep.
So he introduced me to Rotary at the time being, and I liked it because at the time being, Rotary is a business club, really. We have to understand there are lots of business people in there, and the wealth of knowledge which is in a Rotary Club is unbelievable. So I really liked that, and I was one of the younger members at the time being, and that helped me further on with my business greatly.
Yeah, definitely. No, Rotary, and I know obviously through Brisbane being such a small place now, most of the people that we kick around with in these networking, there's a lot of people that are part of Rotary, and obviously I'm an Apexian, and I probably always will be an Apexian until there's no more Apex. But Rotary is always something that I definitely feel strongly about. I know my wife also feels strongly about Rotary as well. So it's great that that was something that really got your good start, I guess, in Australia off the ground through people like David O'Kines. You're able to sort of start, I guess, from in a way it was starting from scratch, but you had all that background from what you'd learned in Switzerland, and you had that sort of personality to be able to make it work for yourself. And so Marcel, I guess when you sort of started up Country Consulting, when you first got here, was there sort of a goal as to what you wanted to do with Country Consulting? Obviously, you told us before the services, the IT services that you provide. Is there something you're sort of looking at trying to any sort of long-term goals that you want to achieve with Country Consulting?
Yes, Tim, look, there are a few things which I always had in mind with Country Consulting. Now, one thing what I wanted to do, and I mentioned it before, I wanted to be different. The business should be different, and we are technology focused, but I don't want to be seen as a geek of technology. A geek can be also a slave of technology. In using technology wisely, there's more to it than just computers and type keyboards and mouse or a phone or whatever you have out there. There's also the personal interaction. You have to make sure that the people are comfortable with what they use. And looking behind the scenes, that's always my goal for the whole business. And the staff today, Tim, I also make them vigilant that when they go to see our friends, customers, they need to keep their eyes open. It's not only the technology what we provide, we are sometimes as well the person a business owner talks to when they have problems in the business, with processes, with staff. Because what's happening when you have this good relationship with everybody is that the business owner tells you things they wouldn't tell anybody else, but so do employees tell you stories, and you can feel there might be an issue or they might have an idea, but they're not game to bring that forward. But we can do the link. We are the missing link between. We can make the link, we can bring it forward. When we hear something, we can make sure that it gets brought forward for the positive or whatever changes is necessary. And that's the key part of our business. We don't want to lock ourselves in, and we do not lock ourselves into one particular area or profession or anything like this. We keep ourselves open because we need to have the global knowledge of everything. So that comes into place, Tim, when, for example, a business is moving. Often a business has maybe a new location, maybe their lease expires. We get called up by the business owner and say, hey, look, I want to move. I've got these 3 locations. I'm not sure if I should talk to the real estate person or the agent or whoever it is. Can you go and have a look? So we go and have a look, and we find out, and we give him then our opinion on the different places. So he has a starting point. Is yes, the location is good. They have good lighting. We can go get internet connections there. There's staff car park. We look at all these aspects, and they take that in consideration. So got nothing really to do directly with IT, but they want to know our opinion, and that's always very good.
There's a bit of a trust. There's a bit of a trusted sort of consultant advisor type situation in what you're saying, that you're building that bit of rapport to be able to make those sort of calls as well.
Absolutely.
And obviously, just for experience, your experiences help other people's experiences. Is one way you got to look at things, I guess. So Rotary and all of that's definitely it's been great and for you. I guess what I was going to ask you, so what do you, just a few things circling back, we'll probably circle back to some other stuff as well, but where do you see some technology advancement sort of going in the future, mainly sort of, well, Australia wide, but Brisbane in particular. Do you think things like driverless cars are sooner and closer than we think as far as being the norm, or what do you think? What do you think about those types of technologies?
Technology is always interesting in how it gets adopted. Today we can do a lot of things, and we don't do a lot of things which we could do. The reason for it is acceptance. Now, even with driverless cars, the technology is here, but what I'm always vigilant is what we hear and see, if that is all really the truth. So I'm always a little bit skeptical with a lot of things. I like to be on the realistic side of the things. Now with driverless cars, there's the acceptance, do the people accept that? Liability, we heard a lot of stories what happened with Tesla case not too long ago in America, and some other accidents. So I'm not quite sure. It's the technology could do a lot, but is it beneficial for the humans in
There's
reality?
always a human involvement. What I'm very interested to listen to, I haven't listened to it. I'm hoping to get a chance to listen to it over the weekend. A new podcast just came out today with one of my inspirational podcast hosts, Joe Rogan. His guest, Elon Musk. That'd be very
interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting to listen to that conversation. But if you want to listen to something interesting, I reckon that might be an interesting podcast to listen to. But I haven't listened to it yet. But I'm just saying, Elon Musk is one of those sort of guys that you like to hear what sort of comes out of his mouth a bit to see what Well, that's just what I got thinking when I saw it and said, "Wow, that would be a good one."
Definitely vision. And Elon Musk is definitely a person who has a lot of visions in his eyes and can inspire people with his thoughts.
Yeah,
which is interesting. Good.
So, what about? So, obviously, you've got some family. How do you sort of interact with your, I guess, children to be able to say, okay, this is, do you sort of have any sort of influence in where do you think they will go in their careers and that type of thing? I mean, are they going to be people that are they going to be into technology as well, or do you think they'll be in something completely different, or how do you think they'll what sort of world are they going to be living in?
Let's start actually with my daughter. I never try to force technology on my children.
Yep.
They see what I do, they see the benefits, what I draw out of it, they see as well how much I have to work. So it's like getting somebody into your own business. You don't want to really force that onto the children. And I leave my children an open hand what they do. But interestingly, it shows that my daughter, she studies advanced science at UQ, and she loves it. And we have been, some years ago, we went to visit the CERN, a Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, and she is looking at maybe that she has an opportunity to get some learning or study or working there as well.
Yeah.
So she has embraced definitely the technology side, the science side. From me, she has inherited that one. And my son just finished his QCS yesterday. Year 12, that's right. So he is looking at doing on the mechanical side. My dad used to be a mechanic and specific mechanic, making high quality drills and CNC machines. And my son seemed to have inherited his finger or his manual things, and he's looking at doing an engineer degree when he finishes. So yeah, I don't try to force technology on them, but today I can tell you, Tim, some stuff they know nearly better than me.
That's the thing with kids, that they know how to use things that you haven't even seen in use. They say, look, Tim, this is how this happened, I can just imagine, this is how this works. What did you just do? How do you know how to do that?
Absolutely. Look, that always amazes me, and I like to work with younger people. We have in our office as well younger people involved. So if you contact Country Consulting, you speak to my staff, and some of them are just out of university or still in university, and I like to harness their ideas. Now, an idea and make it reality is completely different story. and the idea to bring it alive and make it a valuable proposition for a business is not the same. And that's where I come in, or me and management staff as well, to make sure that the ideas are realistic, that they can make into a positive aspect of a firm. So a lot of things, they're very nice, but they're not really suitable for anything. But if you have the right thing and the right mixture, then it's perfect. And that's where you always need to be open, and that's why I'm still in that kind of business. Tim, every day I get up and I tell you what, every day is a challenge. Every day is different. There's no day which is the same for me. Every day I get confronted with something new, and I have to master it. And I think a lot of my people in the office as well love that challenge.
Yeah, something that sort of resonated from me from Mark Manson, what he was talking about yesterday. You know, if it doesn't involve pain, it's not worth doing. You know, it's not worth. There's no achievement in just having achieved something without pain. No. Is the whole. So you've got to enjoy. You actually got to enjoy pain, enjoy pressure as much as you enjoy the successes.
Absolutely. Look, the best, a good day for me is if I come into the office and we get a phone call and say, look, we would like to have this and this project done, or this and this, and I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard about that. And then I go scratch my head, and then at our team meeting we just discuss it and say, has anybody heard about that? And then we go out like little bees and collect the information and find a solution and gather information about something. And you know, it's stressful, as you just said, but it's rewarding as well. And even if it's not coming to light, you have learned something new.
For sure. So I guess, does anybody, I mean, whether it's a popular public figure, whether it's, you know, someone that you know quite well, family or friends, who are the people that inspire you? You know, who are the inspirations that you get when you're when you do wake up and say, and who are the people that have inspired you now and in the past to be able to make you the person that you are, in your opinion?
That's a very interesting question. I haven't really thought about that. I don't have directly a person in front of me about that. For me, it's life itself. You know, somebody who has a balanced life, it's actually, Tim, you are a part of it, you know, as well.
Appreciate that.
You know, what you do inspires me. So I look around my network. I don't need a Bill Gates or anybody like this as my hero or whatever, as my inspiration. My inspirations are the people around me, which inspire me. You know, when I see people with ideas and coming forward with tasks, or they achieve sometimes crazy things, or setting up like a vaccination in the Philippines for young girls, or another project building shelters, or just around the corner making sure a local school has a ramp built, or employ people. I mean, you as an employer like me, you know, we have a big responsibility, and unfortunately often it's not taken in account, but we still tickle along and we carry that one. So that's my inspiration, the people surrounding me. Going to these business networking group meetings when I'm going, they're really my driving force. They're my fuel to keep going. I tell you, Tim, every time when we have the BOTS meeting or the Kedron Brook business group meeting or the Valley Chamber meeting, you know, I come back hyped. I'm really, full of energy. Yes, I want to do. Yes. So that's.
It does do that too. That's for sure. It does give you that excitement factor to your business part of your life. Like, there's obviously, your life is not all business. Sometimes it seems that way. Sometimes, but there is more to life. But it does. You need to have some sort of excitement in that. You need to have a bit of challenge in that as well, and you need to be able to, you know, harness new relationships and try to build it up and keep living, you know, at the end of the day. So places around the world that you've travelled to, what are some of the places around the world that you've sort of felt you've enjoyed the most on holidays and stuff like that? Where have you been that you think if someone said, "Oh, go to that place," you'd have a good time?
That's another good question, Tim. I'm a citizen of the world, basically. I have to say I like the world. Anywhere in the world, I really like it, because
Interesting answer.
what my view is, yes, there is negative sides, there are bad things in the world, but I like to see the good things. And I've been traveling, backpacking, in Asia, from Singapore, for example, up through Malaysia to Thailand, and stayed in very simple places. But the connection, what you can do, it's you who makes things interesting, I believe. It's you who can make your life change. If you're open to things, and if you keep your eyes open and you talk to people, most people in the world, humans, are friendly. And I like any place, Tim. I like it here. If people ask me, and I know listeners who come from overseas or move to Australia and call Australia their home now, they often get asked, wouldn't you like to go back? And I say, maybe not. I live here now. That's my home. The people are here, my family. That's where I'm belonging at the moment. I don't know, maybe in 10 years' time, maybe I live there again or not. But here I am, and here I will be. I've seen a lot of my friends' families in Switzerland when I was young. Switzerland had a lot of migrants from Italy. A lot of Italian people came to Switzerland as well, Spanish and Portuguese, but at the time being, Italy was the connection, because part of Switzerland speak Italian as well. So they come to Switzerland and they worked here. They brought up their children, but they never learned the local language. So when I have a conversation today with them after 50 years, they still speak a broken German or Swiss German. Because what they had in their mind is, when I retire, I go back to my home country. Guess what? They can't. Going back is not that easy. Some of them bought a house there and they wanted to retire, but they can't go back because their families have moved on or died. So now they're sort of haven't got a route anymore, because they never had the mind of settling in. And I don't want that this happens to me. So that's why I like the world. Anywhere in the world is a very interesting place.
Yeah, so, excellent. What's anything sort of big coming up in your world at the moment? Obviously, next Monday we've got the Rotary Golf Day at Royal Queensland, which I've been tagged along, and
you will be one of my buddies there.
As long as we don't turn Royal Queensland into a potato field, Marcel, I think...
I did that the last 2 years, so listeners, I'm a very good golfer. I think that's the 4th time in my life I play golf, so...
We've got a pretty sort of scratched together team, but we'll get there, I think, at the end of the day.
We will.
But it's all for a good cause. What is the charity cause that we're playing for this year?
It's Aunties and Uncles, it's called.
What's that? Aunties and Uncles?
Yes. It's a very interesting organization, some younger kids where they don't have really like a father figure or a mother figure, that you can offer your support, and you can then become a sort of an uncle to that person and take them out once a month or so and do some activities, just integrate them in your family. Kids which come from a family which has a little bit of disruption or things like that. So it's listeners, if you want to Google that one, it's quite a worthy organization. Definitely. It's a small organization, but worthwhile getting involved in it.
Yeah, excellent. I know you came along to one of my Australia Day parties once to listen to the hottest 100 of Triple J's.
Absolutely.
So, what sort of music are you into? Do you like that type of music, that sort of Triple J style, or is there any particular style of music that you sort of like?
Oh, with music, it's more like the things what I don't like.
Heavy metal?
Yeah, no, it depends if it's a classical heavy metal.
Yeah.
As I told you, I've made music myself, and probably I was one
Yeah.
of this screamer as well. I wasn't really I was the singer in our group because nobody else wanted to. But no, I'm pretty open with music as long as it has a melody in it. So of course now,
It's got to have a bit of rhyme to reason. It's got to be catchy enough. It's got to be nice on your ears.
That's right.
Voices are always important, aren't they? Do you think? You mean a good voice if the band has got a good female vocalist with a good female voice, that always sounds good as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
In my from what I've seen, so yeah, that big sound, that was 3 nights of that was pretty crazy. I don't know how I did it, but I decided to take the plunge, and that's the punishment, I guess. Zero software. I mean, I went to ZeroCon. I think you've had a bit of a look at Zero software before. The conference was unbelievable the way it's sort of set up. I don't know where Zero. It's going to be interesting to see where a company like Zero goes from here, because Zero is really, it's really sort of gathered a lot of market share away from MYOB over the last 7 or 8 years. It's become big. You're getting 3,700 delegates going to ZeroCon, coming in from all over the world pretty much to find out what's going on in Zero. To me, it's I guess it's got that sort of beautiful aura about it that's people attracted to. But I think a company like Zero, are they going to continue to evolve? Is there going to be like a ceiling for a company like that? Where we see it in the past, if you look at a lot of these different companies, they hit a ceiling at some point. And Zero, I'm not saying they're going to hit a ceiling, but there's always that danger. Like companies like Kodak, that hit a ceiling, and someone else will come along and do things better and easier and not as much. Have you had any experiences yourself with a company like Zero, or you had a look at their software before?
Look, with Zero, of course, I had to look at it. But in global terms, every company has that challenge, as you know, what you just mentioned before. Look just back at IBM. I can talk about IBM because I was a partner of IBM in Switzerland, and I did actually their training for, listen, of some maybe know AS400, Lotus Notes, and so in Zurich. And a good friend of mine in Switzerland still does that. But IBM has changed, a lot. Like when they started, a lot of people know their history, as with typewriters, and from there how they evolved. And I remember when IBM sold their business, like the PC business, personal computer business, to Lenovo, I was thinking, what? They're selling that good business away at the time being? Today I know why they did it. And not too long ago they sold their x86 server business as well to Lenovo. And the reason is they're changing. They know IBM is not that business anymore, or hasn't been for a long time. They do evolve. They have a lot of research. They do a lot of research, and they have big labs in America, of course, and in Zurich and in other parts of the world. And the same with Zero. You see, Zero will diversify. They will find something new to attach to their software solution. We see that with Microsoft. Look, when you see Microsoft today, what Microsoft is today, it's a completely different business model what they were 10 years ago. Now, they're not striving directly into the operating system anymore. They want to sell added value, like with the Office 365, hosted solution, Azure, what they have. So they diversify their business, that they have a more secure business. So they're not playing, or they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, because they know maybe Windows 10 in today's world, and I showed actually an example at the bots meeting.
Yep.
You don't need a laptop anymore. Your phone can do the job, and if you have a remote desktop and what we provide, you don't need that. You can work anywhere in the world. So their business model has changed and will evolve, and so will Zero. We see that MYOB is struggling with it. They work hard on changing at the moment. Their offerings has changed, and any business, like our business, like if I could throw back to that, we have changed a lot. You know, although I'm, let's say, an old person in IT, but we have to stay young and dynamic with evolving ideas, because
Definitely.
every day it changes. A little technology thing can make such a huge difference to anybody.
Yeah. So last night, you probably don't, I don't know, you probably don't follow the AFL, but Richmond and Hawthorn at the first game of the 2018 finals, I guess you call it. My team, Richmond, top of the ladder. We won, so very, very happy about that. So congratulations to Richmond, up the Tigers. My younger brother, he flew down to Melbourne to watch the game live, so that would have been great. I wish I could have gone in a way, but too much on yesterday. There's no way I could get out of all of that sort of stuff. But what sports do you sort of get into, Marcel? Is there any in particular sport that you follow at all, or you're not really a sports person? I'm just...
Used to be, Tim. Look, as a Swiss, of course, skiing used to be a big thing.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, when you come back from school, we used to go home over lunchtime, and my mother turned on the telly, and we all sit glued in front of the telly and watching the downhill race or anything what is there. So absolutely yes, and of course soccer was a big thing.
Yes.
At the moment, I'm just admiring still our fellow the Swiss tennis player, of course.
Federer?
Absolutely, yes.
Didn't our Brisbane boy beat him the other day?
He did.
Millman,
yeah.
I think is
Yeah,
his name Millman?
Yeah.
How old's this Millman guy? Yeah.
I have no idea.
Just we have to have a look up Millman and see how old this guy. I don't even know what his first name is, but he made the quarterfinals. He Millman. So yeah, he beat Roger Federer, but then he lost to Djokovic or whatever
That's
his name
right,
is.
yes.
But,
Yeah.
Millman tennis, John Millman, that's his name. So John Millman, has he got a future? Or he's got a chance or not? I wonder this guy.
We'll
How
see,
old
but
is he?
it was good for him to have that fame.
He's old for a tennis player to be peaking. He's 29. I mean, he should have. I suppose 9 years ago would have been good if he was playing the way he is now. But so you've only got a limited window with to get to the top in tennis. You know. I remember Leighton Hewitt wasn't at the top for very long, but he did get to the top.
I think sports people are inspirations as well. When we come back to the inspirations before, like when I look at the Federer or a Nadal, how they behave and how they do things and how serious and how focused they are on what they do, they can be an inspiration for a lot of business people as well, and it can help to see what they do.
Actually, one guy I'm going to try to see if I can get him on the podcast. I've got to follow him on Facebook. I ran into him at Xerocon. There's a guy called Andre Moore who migrated to Brisbane back in the late 80s or the early 90s. He played for the Brisbane Bullets. So I was playing a bit of basketball with Andre Moore over the last couple of days. He's a fantastic guy. He's about 50. He's probably in his 50s now, but he was in his prime. He was like one of the best in the NBL, the National Basketball League. He actually played for 12 months in Tassie for the Tassie Devils when it used to exist.
Wow.
He told me a rumour that there might be a team coming, an NBL team coming back to Hobart. So I don't know too much about it. I might look that up, but that's quite interesting. Other sort of things that are happening at the moment, Brisbane Festival. I think you might have seen the ads around the city, all pink, all that pink, those pink sort of advertising. So we just finished Big Sound now, the Brisbane Festival, starting from Saturday the 8th. I think the River Stage has got some big acts on there, some fairly well-known artists, and then that runs all the way through the end of the month. So all the rest of September from tomorrow onwards is something happening with the Brisbane Festival. You've got the Powerhouse.
Isn't it a fantastic place to live in, Tim? Brisbane is so fantastic.
And
so many things on. It's just wonderful.
One of the people at the gym keeps banging on about Rhonda Birchmore playing anyways. So that's happening. Also in the Valley Chamber of Commerce. So there is the AGMs on next week. I'm going to be an interested observer. I think there's a few elections going on. So join the Valley Chamber of Commerce if you're interested in if you haven't joined already. It's certainly a great chamber, very vibrant, and coming up on a fortnight from today is the Valley Chamber of Commerce Business Festival. I don't know if you've seen that one advertised in your mail, but I haven't sort of got round to whether or not I'm going to put a stand up, but I've just had so much on lately. It's been pretty crazy stuff, but it does definitely, if I don't have a stand, I'll definitely be there anyway to see what other people get up to and enjoy the whole festivities. Do you think you'll go to that?
I'll definitely do have a look around. We were just discussing if we have a stand there. It's a brilliant venue there on King Street, and thanks to Lend-Lease and cooperating so much with the Valley Chamber, I think it's a very nice and good partnership.
Yeah, it's a great area there, and certainly, and at the end of the month, Winning Appliances, I think, is the meet and mingle. I don't know if you've been into that Winning Appliances.
No,
Never been there.
Hadn't had a chance yet.
So that was we had the meet and mingle there exactly. It was 12 months ago. One not to miss, Marcel, because I remember last time when we went to that one, you just go around. It's like a kitchen, bloody fit out everywhere in the whole, all these different kitchens, and it's crazy. So I went there with Ben, 10, I think, and my wife in April. I remember that. And there's the prize giveaways at the raffles are the best throughout the rest of the year. These are the ones where you can win some really cool kitchen prizes, whether it's and some really good monetary value. So one not to miss as far as meet and mingle is concerned.
Sounds good.
That's a Thursday night, and then I'm going to Gladstone the next day. I think I'm heading up to Gladstone to support some mixed martial arts. So I think that's just about nearly a wrap there, Marcel. I don't know if there's too much else I can probably go on about. So there was another guy I wanted to put a shout out to. Actually, I ran into him last night at Cloudland. His name's David Boyer. So David Boyer's got a podcast called From the Trenches, and he's one of the inspirations behind this podcast, From the Valley podcast. So just a big hello to David Boyer. Hopefully he'll say hello to me on his podcast. He said he would coming up, so he might even do a 5-on-5, some sort of 5-minute interview thing, so I'd be interested to see if that happens. But that was what the From the Trenches podcast is about. It's everyday life in the accounting world. So, but I didn't want to sort of digress onto that. Those guys do that, and they do that very well. They discuss different things that are going on, some good things, some bad things, get guests on from the tax office, from Bloody Maya, QuickBooks, the software companies. They're sponsored by BGL, but I ran into him at Cloudland. He's a big Western Bulldogs supporter. So apart from that, I don't think I have too much more. One final thing. Tomorrow I might be possibly doing another podcast tomorrow morning with Damien Brown, so look forward to that one. But also tomorrow in Apex, we've got an event on in Queensland on the south side at Mount Gravatt TAFE. It's the Apex Australia Teenage Fashion Awards, the Queensland final. So our club will be there. I'm going to try to possibly take my gear along and talk to an award-winning fashion designer. There's this young kid. He's only 17, so he's been doing this competition for the last 4 years and winning every year. Connor O'Grady. So I'm hoping to maybe talk to Connor if I get a chance tomorrow, depending on how things sort of work out. But he's someone I'd certainly like to talk to see. I mean, it's mainly a female-dominated industry, fashion design, but this guy seems to know what he's doing, and rather than play football, this guy is out there bloody sewing skirts together and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting. Very, very good young man. So hopefully we'll hear from him. So that's been From the Valley podcast. Marcel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you to the listeners.
We've had pretty much right on the 1 hour mark. It's been pretty much, as I said, it would probably go for about that, Marcel. So thanks very much to all the listeners. This has been From the Valley podcast. I've been your host, Tim Wilshie, here today with Marcel Vogt, who owns a IT business here in Newstead, Brisbane, called Country Consulting. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and don't do anything that I wouldn't do.